This is Part 2, Episode 77. In the previous edition of the tournament, their overall abilities were greater than Shrek Academy's, and they still lost. After they returned, they tried to summarize the reason why they lost, and they came to a conclusion: belief. Shrek's 7 monsters had been inspired to fight for Shrek's glory. Along with Ma Xiaodao and Dai Yueheng's abilities, they eventually defeated the stronger Sun Moon team. At this point, someone from the Tang sect stood up and walked towards the Sun Moon team. Xiao Hongchen squinted at him and stopped in his tracks. Xu Sanxia was the one who had walked over. He walked in front of Xiao Hongchen and Meng Hongchen and said, "It's been a long time. How are the both of you?" Xiao Hongchen's facial muscles twitched. "It's been a long time. Were you blind over the past few days?" "Yes. Long time no see." Xiao Hongchen revealed a foxy smile on his face. Xu Sanxia sighed and said, "Time passes really quickly. I never expected us to meet 5 years later. In the previous round, we decided to surrender, because we understand how tough it must be on the both of you. I wonder if you can return the favor today. It'll be great if we can progress together." Xiao Hongchen snorted. "We are not so spineless." Xu Sanxia looked very sad. "I hope the few people who died back then are resting in peace now. If I can, I'd like go over to pay my respects. It's hard to show mercy during the tournament. We're really not being hostile." Xiao Hongchen was furious and almost snapped. However, Xu Sanxia had already turned around and left. Meng Hongchen dragged him back. "Don't be fooled. He's trying to provoke you." Xiao Hongchen quickly calmed down. However, his eyes looked very cold, to the point that his expression was almost frightening. "Even if he didn't remind me, I will never forget our vendetta from the previous tournament." The 8 teams who were supposed to compete in the morning had already arrived. Shrek's team was seated beside the Tang sect. Wang Qiu'er was very close to Hui Yuhao, around 3 meters apart. Hui Yuhao's eyes were still shut, and he didn't move in his wheelchair. It was as if he were asleep. Wang Qiu'er had seen him when she first arrived. However, she didn't fix her gaze on him. The cold look on her face was even more intense than before. Her ferocious aura could be felt even if one got slightly close to her. "Hi, Qiu'er." Wang Dong'er was seated beside Hui Yuhao and greeted Wang Qiu'er. Wang Qiu'er only nodded at Wang Dong'er and didn't say anything back. Wang Dong'er was dressed like a man now, whereas Wang Qiu'er was wearing a veil. It wasn't easy to tell they were identical. Dai Huobin also looked very cold, not much different from Wang Qiu'er. Zhulu and Wu Feng were openly hostile towards the Tang sect. Xia Huanyue and Ning Tian were expressionless. On the other hand, Zhu Xikhen and Cao Jinxian were winking at Wang Dong'er and Xiao Xiao occasionally. The Lan sisters, who were substitutes, wore smiles on their faces. Up on the main stage, Zhu Zi pushed Xu Tianran over to the main spot. After tidying up his shirt, she sat down beside him. Xu Tianran grabbed her hand and placed it on his thigh. He tapped her hand gently. Zhu Zi smiled and looked very cute. Xu Tianran smiled as he said, "Today's first match is between the Sun Moon team and the Tang sect. It should be quite interesting." Zhu Zi smiled and asked, "Really? The Sun Moon team will surely win." Xu Tianran twisted his head to look at Jing Hongchen and asked, "Hallmaster Hongchen, what do you think?" Jing Hongchen returned the smile and answered, "An eagle's wings will always remain weak if it doesn't learn how to fly on its own. I let them do whatever they want. My grandson and granddaughter have been working hard over the past few years, so that they can defeat the bunch from the Tang sect in this tournament. I'm also eager to see what'll go down, even though I hope that they won't need to give it their all at this stage." Wang Qiu'er's eyes were ice cold, but her eyes were locked on Hui Yuhao from the beginning to the end. She frowned involuntarily when she noticed that he hadn't opened his eyes at all. The Tang sect had forfeited the last round, and she was incredibly displeased with their decision. Will they give this round up as well? "No matter what happens, I will lead Shrek Academy into the next round. We have to defeat the Sun Moon Empire's team, and we will also have to defeat the Tang sect. What should I do if they abandon this round once more?" Thoughts were still spinning around in Wang Qiu'er's head while the contestants entered the waiting area. Nan Qiuqia whispered to Jing Ziyan beside her over at the Tang sect's camp. "Do you think we can win this round? That's the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy. They came in second place in the previous round, and I've heard that they've been second place for 2 seasons in a row. They have never lost to anyone else besides the Shrek Academy team. Jing Ziyan answered mysteriously, does that mean you favor our opponents in this round? Nan Qiuqiu said, of course. We forfeited the last round, but why aren't we forfeiting this one? It's better for us if we conserve our strength and our energy to fight the other teams. This is the first round, and if we end up losing this round and we all end up wounded and exhausted, doesn't that mean we're going home? Jing Ziyan felt a little speechless. Does that mean you believe we have the ability to defeat the Shrek Academy team? If we forfeit this round and we lose against Shrek Academy, how do we progress to the next round? Only 2 teams from each group can progress into the quarterfinals. Nan Qiuqiu widened her eyes. What? You think the Tang sect, a sect without any reputation at all, can progress into the quarterfinals? Are you sure about what you just said? Unless every single one of them is as powerful as you are, how can they progress into the quarterfinals? It's just not possible. Their most optimal choice should be to try their best to win a few rounds in the group stage, so that they can have a good ranking at the end. Jing Ziyan chuckled and said, I wouldn't be so sure about that. How about, let's have a bet? Nan Qiuqiu had always been rather stubborn and defiant. What are we betting on? How's that going to work? Jing Ziyan replied, we can bet on who emerges victorious in this round. You favor the Sun Moon Empire's team, right? I am betting that the Tang sect will win this round. If you win, I will take you Radiant City's most lavish and luxurious hotel for a delicious meal. But if you lose, you have to fight against me 1 versus 1 over 10 different occasions, and split over 10 different days. Your annihilation element is quite interesting. The corner of Nan Qiuqiu's mouth twitched, and it was evident that she was reminiscing about a certain unpleasant memory. She deliberated for a little while, and she nodded vigorously as she said, all right, it's a done deal, then. You can't cheat, though. I feel like I can already see a sumptuous meal in front of me. Jing Ziyan said arrogantly, I will make this bet with you, in the name of the Tang sect's glory. If I lose, so be it, and all I have to do is spend some money to take you out for a meal. It's a deal, neither of us can cheat. Ji Juechen was sitting on Jing Ziyan's other side, and his mouth twitched, but his eyes were as calm as always. His gaze was fixated on Hui Yuhao. This epic battle will surely inspire me in some way. It's your show, Yuhao. But how much of your true abilities can you unleash with the state that your body is in? Wang Donga patted Hui Yuhao's right hand gently over in the Tang sect's camp, and she stood up from her seat. Hui Yuhao finally opened his eyes as she stood up. His eyes were cold, and could even be described as grim and unfeeling. Hui Yuhao gave a faint nod back to Wang Donga, but he didn't say anything else. Wang Donga tapped on the ground with her foot, and drifted onto the competition stage. The protective soul barriers rose from the ground the moment she stepped onto the stage, and separated the contestants from the outside world. It's Wang Dong. Meng Hongchen was seated inside the waiting area, and she felt as if a bucket of ice-cold water had just splashed over her fighting spirit, and extinguished half of it. A strange smile broke out across Xiao Hongchen's face. Looks like the heavens are on our side, and it was the right decision not to let you take point. If you accidentally lost to him, we would have had real problems in the subsequent rounds. Meng Hongchen bit down on her lower lip and mumbled under her breath, if only I had known Wang Dong was the first one, then I would have told Shishing to have some mercy and not land any killing blows. It's too late now. What should I do? Xiao Hongchen was clearly exasperated, but he didn't seem surprised by her reaction at all. Whose side are you on? The question we should be thinking about is whether we can win this round. They were quarreling on their side, while Wang Donga and the youth from the Sun Moon Empire's team walked to the center of the stage. The judge glanced at them both as he lowered his voice and said, this is the first fight of the round-robin stage. Be careful, you two, and try your best not to wound or cripple your opponent. I will immediately separate the two of you once I deem one party to be victorious, and neither party is to continue attacking. Otherwise, I will declare the violator disqualified. Do you understand? There were too many people who were either wounded or dead from the elimination rounds, and the organizing committee had shouldered quite some pressure. It was natural that they would require the judges to be a lot stricter than before. The youth from the Sun Moon Empire's team nodded and said, my name is Shishing, remember my name, perhaps it will follow you for the rest of your life. He turned around towards the edge next to his camp as he spoke. Wang Donga frowned and asked the judge, are used nowadays all so ridiculous? The corner of the judge's mouth twitched. Prepare for battle. This competition relies on fighting strength and abilities, not how powerful your mouth is. Wang Donga said plainly, don't be biased. Otherwise, you will regret it. The judge was momentarily stunned. He had been the judge for quite a few rounds during the elimination round, and this was the first time that he was encountering somebody that dared to threaten a judge. This fellow was a little outrageous. Wang Donga was just about to turn around and return to her own side, but she suddenly saw someone waving to her from the other side. Wasn't that Meng Hongchen? Wang Donga glanced at her helplessly, and she waved back at the same time, before she retreated to her own side. Meng Hongchen instantly became excited as she turned towards Xiao Hongchen and said, "Did you see that, brother?" He waved to me. Did you see how exasperated and helpless he looked? It's clear that he doesn't want to face us in battle. We have to get him into our academy after the competition, no matter what. I can be with him that way. Shut up. You're so hopelessly infatuated. I've had enough of you. Sit your ass down, you have utterly disgraced the Hongchen family. Xiao Hongchen was practically growling as softly as he could. Wang Donga nodded softly to show that she understood. She walked all the way to the competition stage's edge before she turned back around once more. However, she could see just as she was turning around that the judge's arm had already swung downwards to signal that the fight had begun. Do you have to be so obviously biased? Wang Donga frowned faintly. She wasn't hasty to charge forward, and her eyes sparkled as a pair of dazzling wings extended from behind her back. Enormous blue wings covered her entire back, and she was immediately blanketed with a beautiful bluish golden layer of light. Her radiant butterfly goddess wings flickered with golden spots, and it felt as if these spots had come alive as a dense aura of light surged into the sky. The first person to make a move was Shixing, who was representing the Sun Moon Empire's team. He took a step out and dashed forward as his flying-type soul tool extended out behind his body at the same time. It took 2 accelerations before he surged into the sky and flew high into the air. 4 streaks of brilliant white light erupted from behind his flying-type soul tool and propelled his body into the sky like a shooting star. A Class 4 scarlet-red explosive shell barreled toward Wang Donga as he soared through the sky. This season was just like the last one, and soul engineers were not allowed to use stationary soul tools. Class 4 explosive shells had a similar reputation to milk bottles amongst Class 4 soul tools, and they were extremely powerful. However, a longer time was needed to charge them up. That Shixing could control his flying-type soul tool to rise through the air while firing an explosive shell so quickly meant he was quite adept with soul tools. Wang Donga shifted her mouth indifferently as she flapped her wings gently and rose into the sky along with him. The reason why Hu Yuhao agreed to let her take the first round was substantially related to the fact that she could fly. Sects and academies that consisted mostly of soul engineers had a higher win rate in the elimination rounds before this because of the tournament's new rules. The immense advantage that soul engineers had because they could fly was just too evident. Wang Donga shot into the sky like an arrow, but a strange scene occurred immediately afterwards. The Class 4 explosive shell suddenly changed direction and followed closely behind her. This round was especially important for the Tang sect, and Wang Donga was the first one to fight. Hu Yuhao was afraid that he would lose his cool and his rationality, because he was too concerned, and that he wouldn't keep his calm to continue commanding his team in the tournament. Therefore, when his eyes were closed before this, he was using one of the skills of necromancy that he had learned from the Calamity Necromancer, Electrolux, which was called the Necromancer's Silent Heart. This skill allowed him to enter a peculiarly calm state, and the skill also greatly boosted his senses. The only downside was that he would be incapable of any emotions at all over the next day, and he would only use the most rational and reasonable methods to think about things. Wang Donga's second soul ring sparkled, and a golden light burst forth from the light spots on her wings behind her. The sphere of light immediately collided with the explosive shell hurtling through the air. Intense explosions could be heard, and sphere of scorching red light over 10 meters in diameter instantly lit up the sky. The violent shockwaves that resulted from the collision caused the air in the sky to twist and contort. This was a Class 5 explosive shell after all, and the shell possessed power close to a Class 6 soul tool's attack. Shixing was sophisticated, indeed. Shixing revealed 5 soul rings, 2 yellow and 3 purple rings, which contrasted with Wang Donga's 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black soul rings. Wang Donga's ring combination was the most optimal combination, and she was also a soul emperor. There was quite a gap between their cultivations. However, since Shishing could unleash a Class 5 explosive shell with tracking abilities within such a short period of time, it was likely that he wasn't far from his 6th ring even though he only had 5 rings at the moment. The vigorous shockwaves touched Wang Donga in the end and forced her body upwards. On the other side, 3 more explosive shells whistled through the air and formed a triangular formation in the sky. This formation completely locked Wang Donga in and sealed everything off as she rose up through the air. Back on the rostrum, Xu Tianran said plainly, relieved that judge of his duties after the competition. You have to be discerning even if you're biased. He's going to disgrace our empire by showing such bias when everyone's watching. What an idiot. Yes. Cold light flashed across Zhu Zi's eyes. However, the image of her and Wang Donga healing Hu Yuhao together surfaced in her mind at this moment. He must know that she's a girl by now. Are they together now? Zhu Zi could feel her heart starting to palpitate as this question appeared in her mind. Why are your hands so cold, Zhu Zi? Xu Tianran asked confusedly. Zhu Zi felt her heart skip a beat and said hurriedly, the tournament is too exciting. Perhaps I'm just a little nervous. Xu Tianran smiled, you can't be crushing on that youth from the Tang sect, can you? He's the most handsome man I've ever seen, though. I couldn't match up to him even if I could walk. Zhu Zi couldn't help but laugh. Are you envious, Your Highness? Xu Tianran chortled and said, I'm also a man, how can I not be envious? He was wearing a smile on his face, but the sparkle in his eyes was as cold as ever. He couldn't please his women, so deep in his heart, he was quite afraid that his women wouldn't be loyal to him. He couldn't take it even if it was just emotional disloyalty. However, Zhu Zi's next sentence pacified the fury that was just rising in his heart. Zhu Zi continued, I'm glad that you're envious for me, because that means you care about me. However, there's no need to be envious about a girl, is there? A girl? Xu Tianran was momentarily stunned. Zhu Zi bent down beside his ear and whispered, can't you tell that Wang Dong is a girl? How could a man be that good-looking? Xu Tianran was still shocked. So, she's a girl. How did you find out? Zhu Zi smiled and replied, didn't you ask me to investigate the Tang sect? My people made that judgment from their intel and observations. She's not just a girl, I think she's together with Hu Yuhao. They stay with each other every day, and she's the one that takes care of him. A girl, her. She would be very pretty if she were wearing women's clothes. Xu Tianran murmured to himself. However, his eyes suddenly became cruel and fierce as he spoke. If I hadn't lost the ability to be a man, how many beautiful girls like that would I have for myself? You're hurting me, Your Highness. Zhu Zi exclaimed agonizingly. Xu Tianran froze, and his eyes quickly returned to normal. I'm sorry. However, a frightening pressure descended from the sky right at that moment. Shishing naturally wasn't idle when Wang Donga was falling through the sky with 3 explosive shells on her tail. The attack that he had just launched was meant to preoccupy her. Xiao Hongchen had already shared his findings regarding the Tang sect with his companions before this, and Wang Donga was one of the people that they had to pay extra attention to. They were already aware that Wang Donga had 6 rings now. Even Shishing himself didn't expect his second round of explosive shells would force Wang Donga to tuck tail and run. Distance was extremely important in a fight between soul engineers and soul masters, and soul engineers would reign supreme if there was enough distance between the two parties. Shishing was decisive, and immediately withdrew the other soul tools that he was about to use to continue his suppression of Wang Donga. A fiery red, heavy cannon appeared on his shoulder. Is that a positioning-type soul tool? Hu Yuhao's eyes became a lot more focused as he sat inside the waiting area. Positioning-type soul tools were typically used for stationary soul tools, as they were more practical, and they were equivalent to the stationary soul tool sights. It was apparent that the positioning-type soul tool that Shishing was using wasn't that simple, and the Class 6 Scarlet Flame Cannon's barrel shone with red light as soon as the ruby light beam fired out from his positioning-type soul tool. It was very taxing for Class 5 soul engineers to operate Class 6 soul tools, and this was still the case even though Shishing was nearing his 6th soul ring. Therefore, he couldn't add any more tracking mechanisms to his Class 6 Scarlet Flame Cannon. However, he did pull a cheap trick to get around this. He used a Class 4 positioning-type soul tool and merged it with his soul cannon, giving his cannon shell a certain ability to track its target. Furthermore, the the scarlet flame cannon itself had certain abilities to lock onto its target. It was clear that he intended to smash everything onto Wang Donga without further ado, so that he could end the fight right here and now. Wang Donga could sense the immense pressure coming towards her, and suddenly halted in her upwards flight. She spread out her wings, and looked up calmly at the frightening scarlet flame cannon that was still charging up above her. She glowed even more intensely, to the point where her radiant butterfly goddess wings, which were mainly blue, were blanketed with brilliant golden hues. Go to hell! Shishing roared and fired off the heavy cannon in his hands, and a frightening scarlet red beam of fire erupted from the scarlet flame cannon. The flames froze in mid-air for an instant before they instantly transformed into an enormous fireball that contorted and undulated with wave-like patterns before arriving before Wang Donga in an eye blink. Every single person in the audience held their breath. The gigantic fireball had swelled to the point where it was almost half again as large as Wang Donga's body. Could she take the hit? Was she about to be consumed by the fireball? Everyone had a very intuitive judgment about beauty. Even though Shishing was representing the Sun Moon Empire, Wang Donga's handsomeness and her good looks gave her quite a number of supporters. Many people subconsciously closed their eyes, as they couldn't bear to see such a handsome youth perish just like that. Only those who kept their eyes open witnessed something that was nothing short of a miracle. Wang Donga had no intention of evading the enormous ball of flame. Instead, she opened her arms, and her entire body seemed to transform into transparent golden water crystals in that moment. Her fifth soul ring lit up at the same time. The tremendous scarlet flame cannon shell had already arrived. However, Wang Donga's body was instantly covered by a golden ripple, and she burst with light that seemed like a reflection from the water crystals that enveloped the cannon shell in front of her. The cannon shell's forward momentum was slowed, and Wang Donga actually opened her arms, just like that, and wrapped them around the huge cannon shell. Yes, she hugged it. Furthermore, the incredibly unstable and reactive cannon shell didn't explode at all. This is, even Xu Tianran gasped involuntarily from the rostrum. Wang Donga's eyes had become completely golden by now. There was a tinge of mockery in her eyes, as she stared at the young man opposite her. I'm giving it back to you. Wang Donga raised her hands up into the sky, and passed the cannon shell onto her right hand. The cannon shell shone with even more intense light, as she raised it high into the air, and the scarlet-red flames were converted into brilliant golden fire. In the next moment, the cannon shell left a blazing and dazzling trail as it hurtled back towards Shishing. Wang Donga muttered under her breath, as she tossed the enormous cannon shell through the air. How can you be willing to show me your trump card, if I don't give you enough time? The golden colors on her body receded as she threw the huge cannon shell away. Her wings opened behind her, and she chased after the cannon shell towards Shishing. Shishing's Class 5 protective soul barrier that he used to protect his body was immediately triggered, but nobody could see him anymore. Wang Donga dove from high above the sky as she extended her wings, and a golden sphere quickly condensed and took form in front of her. Shishing's protective soul barrier was ripped to pieces, and another invincible barrier rose from his body. However, Shishing had less than 30% of his soul power left, and he could do little more than watch as another brilliant golden sphere slammed against his second invincible barrier. Sharp and shrill sounds could be heard as uncountable golden sparks erupted into the air. Shishing's soul power rapidly dwindled, and his eyes were full of despair by now. Wang Donga was still very close by, and her wings were fully extended as she descended from the sky like the goddess of light. He knew that he had been defeated. I admit defeat. Shishing shouted as loud as he could. He had learned of the Tang sect's identity from Xiao Hongchen long before this, and knew both parties were mortal enemies. He didn't want to lose his life here, because of any unwarranted stubbornness. Furthermore, there was still a group battle after this, and this wasn't the time for him to give everything he could. He was the first to fight, so all he had to do was use milk bottles to recover his soul power, and he would be back in peak condition when it was time for the group battle. Shishing felt as if he had lost this battle way too unconvincingly, and because he didn't know anything about Wang Donga's insidious fifth soul skill. He still didn't know exactly what Wang Donga's soul skill had done even now. Wang Donga's eyes flowed with mockery when she heard him admit defeat, the judge beneath her already hollering at her to stop. Wang Donga extended her arms to signal that she wasn't attacking anymore. She withdrew her wings and slowly descended to the ground. The golden sphere that she had released continued rubbing against Shishing's invincible barrier, but the radiance was getting weaker and weaker. The butterfly goddess slash originally had an area of effect, but she had focused it into a single point, giving it an incredible destructive force. Wang Donga raised her index finger and wiggled it at him. You won't get that chance. Can you declare that I have won this fight? Yes. The Tang sect is victorious in the first single elimination match. The judge hadn't even finished his sentence when an agonizing howl echoed from the sky, and a body plummeted down in the next moment. The judge was still a soul sage after all, so his reactions were extremely quick. He immediately caught the body falling through the air in a flash of motion. Shishing's face was ghastly pale, and he was exhaling much more than he was inhaling, while his life energy was slipping away at a dangerous rate. You killed him. The judge turned back towards Wang Donga, infuriated. Wang Donga's expression seemed as innocent as ever. Which eye of yours saw that I killed him? I came down in the same moment that he admitted defeat, and I have been by your side this entire time. The first match was over, and the protective barriers around the competition stage naturally receded and disappeared. Xiao Hongchen and Meng Hongchen leapt onto stage at almost the same time as they raced over. They were also astounded when Shishing dropped from the sky for some unknown reason. They could clearly see that Wang Donga's butterfly goddess slash had disappeared before that. Did Shishing burn through every ounce of his soul power? However, they could immediately tell when they came near that Shishing's circumstance wasn't as simple as him exhausting all his soul power. The judge caught him before he hit the ground, and even if he didn't have any soul power left, he would only be exhausted and fatigued. But he wasn't breathing anymore at the moment, and he was as dead as he could be. Xiao Hongchen roared furiously, Wang Dong. You dare to kill my teammate? Wang Donga wore the same innocent expression and replied, I didn't kill anyone. I have no idea why he's dead. Are you blind? Meng Hongchen hesitated and said, Brother, can it be that Shishing has some hidden problems? It's true that Wang Dong didn't do anything to him. Xiao Hongchen spun around and slapped Meng Hongchen across the face. Shut up. You've become so disloyal because of your infatuation. You're still defending your opponents even at a time like this. Get lost. The radiant butterfly goddess fifth soul skill, the goddess of light's possession. Wang Donga could transform herself into a light elemental form for 3 seconds, and this allowed her to develop an affinity for every other element except the darkness element. This soul skill amplified the force of her other soul skills by 100%, and this also allowed her to strike back at darkness elements with 3 times the original force. Wang Donga relied on the goddess of light's possession's special characteristic of developing an affinity for other elements to control the enormous fire-type Scarlet Flame cannon shell. She was then able to throw it back, and thus clinch her victory. Shishing's death obviously had something to do with her. Her butterfly goddess slash was discreetly charged up with the ability that her broken devil of light right arm bone carried, the devil-breaking golden light, which erupted only in the last second and directly pierced into Shishing's heart. How could he survive an attack like that? Wang Donga had murdered one of the Sun Moon Empire's main team members, which meant that she had undoubtedly greatly weakened the opposing team's overall strength. This was extremely beneficial for the group battle that was to come afterwards, and towards Shrek Academy's fight against the Sun Moon Empire after today. Xiao Hongchen didn't take the second fight, because of Wang Donga's words. The next person to fight was a stocky and muscular youth, who looked like a square box when he stepped on stage. His torso very wide, but he was only about 1 meter and 60 centimeters tall. His thick arms were bigger than some people's thighs, and his short and needle-like hair complemented his intrepid aura, while his eyes seemed like they were burning with flames. His feet made plonking noises on the ground with every step that he took. Judge. Wang Donga spoke up right at this moment. What? The judge replied with an enraged look on his face. His mood was horrible. Even though he was biased in this competition, one of the Sun Moon Empire's team members had still lost his life. Wang Donga continued, look at the floor, it's so badly damaged. How can we continue the competition like this? Don't you think we should fix it up a little before anything else? That was true. The 3 explosive shells that had hammered into the ground had created an enormous crater that was more than 15 meters across. Metal fragments, stone, and gravel were scattered all over the place, and the competition stage seemed as wretched as it could be. The judge glanced coldly at her and said, is this the outcome you were hoping for when you brought the 3 explosive shells down to the ground? What a sly little rascal. However, you're going to be disappointed. I'm the judge for this round, and I have the authority to determine whether the competition stage should be fixed or not. You can fly, right? How will the flooring affect you? The competition is to continue. The short and stocky youth had already walked over, and he was getting closer and closer. Wang Donga could distinctly hear that his entire skeleton was crackling incessantly. Are your bones going to break? Do you want to go back and check it out first? Wang Donga said to him with a concerned look on her face. Enough nonsense, the short, stocky youth shouted angrily. You killed Shishing, and I will force you to follow him into the grave. Wang Donga frowned and said, What's your name? The stocky youth glared at her and replied, My name is Zhu Xinghao. Wang Donga's large, pretty blue eyes widened as she said, Is he your boyfriend or your girlfriend? Why are you so angry? You can eat anything, but you can't just say anything you want. Which eye of yours saw that I killed him? And you still want to slander me? You bastard. Zhu Xinghao wasn't as good with words as Wang Donga was, and he darted forward and was about to attack her. Wang Donga just stood there and didn't move at all. Her eyes were fixed innocently on the judge instead. You're an honest and fair judge. She walked away slowly after her remark. The judge had recovered by now, and he almost vomited blood. What's he thinking, calling me an honest and fair judge? This fellow. Hu Hao gave Wang Donga a thumbs up from beneath the stage. Wang Donga gave him a smile in return, as she put the milk bottle in her hands away, and turned around to face Zhu Xinghao. Hu Hao's mouth moved as he mouthed something to her. Wang Donga tilted her head to signal that she understood. With the chemistry that the two of them had, they could even communicate through soundless mouthing. The judge wasn't like before, and he waited for both parties to return to their rightful spots, before he raised his right arm into air and swung it down forcefully. 2 seconds ago, Wang Donga had made her move right, when the judge swung his hand down. She didn't even release her martial soul, but her entire body shot into the sky like an arrow, as she rocketed towards Zhu Xinghao's position. A powerful ray of light sparkled as she dashed out, and the blinding white light propelled her forward as she rapidly accelerated to about 100 meters per second. The competition stage was only 100 meters in diameter. This also meant that 1 second was all it took for Wang Donga to reach her opponent. Wang Donga only unleashed her radiant butterfly goddess when she was about 10 meters away from Zhu Xinghao. Her dazzling wings extended to both sides, and she made use of that forceful propulsion force as she flapped down with her wings. Air resistance allowed her to soar upwards, and her entire body shot into the sky just like that. She opened her wings, and was facing Zhu Xinghao as her second soul ring lit up, and her light of the butterfly goddess rained down on Zhu Xinghao like a meteor shower. It wasn't just people from the Sun Moon Empire that knew how to use soul tools. Wang Donga had a Class 6 soul engineer with her, and how could Hu Hao not help the woman he loved suit up? However, Wang Donga didn't continue her onslaught, instead descending from the sky. She folded her wings and raised them high into the sky, before they transformed into 2 enormous guillotine-like blades that slashed down from the sky. Her luminous wings seemed to make sparks as they slashed through the air, and dazzling golden flames began to burn. Zhu Xinghao's protective soul barrier crackled and quivered amidst shrill and sharp sounds. In the next moment, Zhu Xinghao saw the same light sphere that took Shishing's life erupt before him, and so, he subconsciously unleashed his own invincible barrier. The Sun Moon Empire hadn't even understood how Shishing perished before Zhu Xinghao entered the arena. He didn't want to follow in his good friend's footsteps. Stupid. Wang Donga muttered with a smile on her face, and her footwork changed as she wrapped around behind him. However, she didn't launch any further attacks. However, he still couldn't see Wang Donga anywhere even after he completed a 360-degree turn. He looked up at the sky instinctively, but there was nothing in the sky. I love to beat fools, Wang Donga's voice sounded from behind him. This video will end here.